Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Kaneshka and you're watching Life in a Slide. Today I'm going to review the amazing X Pro 3. I've been using this camera since last 2 years now and I think it's time to let you know how I feel about it. So let's get started. For starters, let's talk about the specifications of this camera. I don't want to go into that in detail. So that's not what this video is about. I want to talk about my real-time experience using this camera for the last 2 years and the feedback that I want to give you. This is a 26 megapixel camera. It's the same sensor as that of the Fujifilm X-T3. It has got two card slots. It takes UHS SD cards. It takes the battery same as that of the X-T3 and X-T30. I don't know why they have not upgraded the battery, because in my experience the battery life is still alright. I would have liked it if they could introduce the same battery as they had in X-T4. It was a bummer because I think the X-T4 and the X Pro 3 almost got released in the same time. I would like to talk about the build quality of this camera. To give you a background, this is the base model. So when I say base model, the Fuji X Pro 3 comes in three variants. The pure black, and then you have a Dura black, and then you have a Dura silver. The only difference between the plain black and the Dura black or the Dura silver is just the top and the bottom plate. They are made of titanium in all the three versions, but the Dura Silver and the Dura Black have that extra coating on them to prevent scratches. I come from a DSLR background, so I can tell you how the Nikon DSLRs feel. They are made like a brick, especially the Nikon D850, which I still use. And after holding a DSLR of that quality, when you hold the Fujifilm X Pro 3, you feel no different. I can tell you that. I feel the build quality of this camera is better than the X-T3, X-T4 or any other lineup in this range. You might disagree with me, but I love the feel. And you must know, top and a base plate are titanium. I don't think you find that in any other Fujifilm camera, at least until the X-T4 was released. So I can tell you the build is really premium, and this is made in Japan, if that interests you. Amazing build quality, the dials, the buttons, everything has that premium feel to it. Alright, now that we have talked about the build quality of this camera, let's talk about the physical features and the ergonomics. As you can see here, you have got a small grip, but all in all, this camera is pretty big as compared to the Fuji X-T3 lineup. So this is a rangefinder style of a camera, but it is pretty hefty and pretty big. So you would definitely love the grip if you like bigger cameras. And I am a sucker for bigger cameras. The build quality, the big grip and the heftiness, I enjoy that a lot when I hold the camera and I make images. So I love that part. Let's talk about the buttons. So you have the usual Fujifilm buttons like the ISO dial, which you have in the X100 series and in the X Pro. The main thing that I want to talk about are the screens in this camera. When I say screens, I'm talking about this controversial tilting screen. And I would also like to talk about the hybrid viewfinder, which is an attraction in this camera, the X Pro series. Although you get that in the X100 series as well. Okay, let's talk about the screen first. So this is a tilting screen, which is kind of laid in a way where if you want to view the images on the LCD, you kind of have to tilt it like this. And then you have to click on the play button and then review your images. I know it's tedious, right? But that's the main reason that this camera is built. So Fujifilm has a niche segment of photographers for whom this camera is built. So this is more for people who want to do documentaries, street photography, etc. And this is for people who do not like to review their images, the term called chimping, if I may say. You don't want to see your images on the go. Rather, this kind of pushes you to click the images and then review them later. So more like the film days, the film cameras, you did not get the instant gratification after you clicked the images. You had to wait for some time, watch the films, and then get your images where you could review them. So it's more or less the same thought, just that there's a delay in how you get that instant gratification, because you, like I said, you got to tilt the screen, click on the play button, and then you could review the images. For some people, they might not enjoy it, and to be honest with you, this was a concern when this camera was released. So this is something to know if you want to go for this camera. This was not the same in XPRO 2 and the XPRO 1, where they had a usual LCD screen like in any other camera. So I like the thought, I love it, to be honest with you, and I appreciate the thought process of Fujifilm that they have put into this camera in order to kind of build this kind of a functionality. Okay, so behind the LCD screen, you again have a small screen. Now this screen is again, it tries to depict the film days. So if you remember, in the film cameras, there was a small pocket behind the film cameras wherein the photographers used to insert the film cards. It was basically a wrapper of the film which said what film speed the photographer was using. It was just to remind the photographer of the film speed so that he or she does not forget it and use the camera in the right manner. So you can do that here. So you basically can have the Fujifilm simulations on the screen, so you could toggle between the various simulations and they would show up here. That's just it's just a gimmick for some, you can say, but I use it. I love the film simulations a lot, so I use that all the time, and that helps me see what kind of a simulation I'm using here. And then if you do not like that and it's more of a gimmick for you, you can also have the details like shutter speed, aperture, ISO, etc. displayed on the small screen. So that can be configured as well. So this is amazing. Like I said, there's a lot of thought process that has been put into this camera in order to give you the Fujifilm XPRO 3. The third thing that I want to talk about is this viewfinder. This is a hybrid viewfinder, and you can toggle between electronic and optical. So this gives you the best of both worlds, to be honest with you. And I do enjoy the optical viewfinder in spite of the fact that the electronic viewfinder is a lot more useful and advanced. But I sometimes like the clear view that you get in the optical viewfinder, the big, large, real-life view. Unlike the electronic viewfinder where you get that electronic image. Yeah, so in the optical viewfinder, you can still see all the numbers on the screen. So you can see the metering, you can see the aperture, ISO, etc. that you're shooting at, and also it has a borderline kind of. So what it tries to tell you is whatever you're seeing inside the borderline basically would be included in the frame of your image. And if you do not want to enjoy the optical viewfinder, you can always toggle to the electronic viewfinder, which is just amazing. A high resolution one where you can see everything very clearly. There's no lag, absolutely. I love the electronic viewfinder as well. I love it so much that it made really difficult for me to shoot with the XT30, which has a considerably low resolution viewfinder as compared to the XPRO 3. The image quality straight out of the camera is really amazing, I can tell you that. Now with the Fujifilm XPRO 3, I do love to shoot JPEG only, because you can use the Fujifilm simulations, although there are options where you can shoot raw and then later convert it according to the Fujifilm simulations like Eterna, Velvia, etc. But I don't like to do that in the software. I like to do it in the camera itself because I feel that is the most authentic, especially if you're using Lightroom and you use those film simulations that are provided by Adobe Lightroom. Again, you must understand that that is an algorithm that is written by Adobe, and it is not out of the box provided by Fujifilm. So if you want to shoot the Fujifilm simulations, please go ahead and shoot in JPEG with the right simulation selected. Right guys, now that I've talked about the image quality, let me show you some images that I have clicked with this camera, and you can be the judge as to how this camera clicks. Although it's just not about the camera all the time, it's about the person who's using it as well. But I can tell you the image quality is just brilliant. Also, I did not mention about the ISO yet. The ISO capabilities of this camera are really good. For my taste, I do not go beyond 3000 ISO because I feel it gets really grainy in a dark situation. So I would suggest that if you really want to shoot in the dark, you can go with a full frame camera. I also have known people who have used this camera in around 6000 to 8000 ISO as well, but that again depends on the personal taste and what subject are you shooting. So all those parameters also define the ISO capability. Let me speak about the autofocusing in the Fujifilm XPRO 3. It has got a total of 425 autofocusing points. The autofocusing in short is really good. So I use this camera in zone and wide tracking most of the time. So zone really works well, and wide tracking also works well while you're kind of continuously focusing or tracking a moving subject. The focusing works really well with the face and eye detection. At least I use this camera only for street and documentary photography, so it really tracks people well walking on the streets, and it has not disappointed me. So I can tell you that the autofocusing works really well as well. The last section that I want to talk about is who is this camera for. I think if you are seeing this video, you're already interested in buying this camera. So I must say that you would have already done your research, because this camera is made for a very niche segment of photographers. The aesthetics of this camera mainly drive you to enjoy the experience more rather than the technical aspects of this camera and making that quick image. ISO dials, the optical viewfinder, the tilting screen where you cannot directly see your images. So all these aspects kind of make you think twice before you go and buy this camera. I mean, why would you choose a camera with a hybrid viewfinder if you do not like using an optical viewfinder? Alright, now if you want to do videos, if you are a hybrid photographer who does videos and photography both, then this camera is not for you. Let me put it this way: if you are using a camera 80% of the time for photography and 20% for videos, you can go with this camera. It has all the video specs you want. You can shoot at 180p slow motion, you can do 4K 30p, 24p, 25p, 200 mbps. All those things are available, but certain things like the mic jack which is provided with this camera is 2.5 mm. That's a big limiting factor right there. I would again say that this camera is made for a very specific set of users who like photography, who want to do that pure photography as Fujifilm says, you have all the basics right. All you have to do is enjoy the experience making an image. So guys, I have given my review and my experience of the X Pro 3 that I have had in the last 2 years. I hope this helps you make a decision in buying this camera. If you really like this video, I would request you to subscribe to my channel. Do leave your feedback in the comment section, and also share this video so that it helps other people in the same time to make a decision if they want to go for this camera. So thank you for watching, and you have a good one. Until next time.